All right, welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel. I am joined by Daniel Starkind, and we're in a good mood today because this was about as picture perfect of a game as you could have drawn up for the Dodgers. The Dodgers win 6-2 to take a 2-1 series lead against the Rays, and Walker Buehler was fantastic. The offense, Justin Turner comes through, a guy that you're used to seeing in the postseason, but who has been struggling this year. They get a bunch of two-run hits, supposedly. I don't believe it. Austin Barnes, my guy, Austin Barnes, with the two biggest pieces of contact of the game for the Dodgers, and then the bullpen. I mean, yes, Canley gives up the home run. We'll talk about that in a bit, but they looked pretty good. I mean, again, if you're drawing this up, tonight was huge for the Dodgers. They come off a loss. You've got your best pitcher on the mound. This was a must-win game. You can't lose this with Walker Buehler going tonight, and they absolutely don't. Walker Buehler puts out his best performance of the season, maybe one of the best performances of his career, I think. Hard to argue with that given the circumstances, but the Dodgers win 6-2. We appreciate you joining us on Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube, wherever you're joining us. We got a good crowd tonight, so we appreciate that. We're going to be giving away a hat, a Dodgers World Series hat, here in a little bit, so be thinking about your headlines. I got a few. I threw one on the headline tonight, which was Walker Buehler's day on, as the Dodgers win 2-1. So, I've got a couple. I've been thinking about headlines tonight. I got two more. Okay. I got two more that I feel pretty good about, but I kind of liked Walker Buehler's day on. So we'll see what happens. But Daniel, I mean, as you think about this one, it's got to be, the headline's got to be Walker Buehler, right?
Yeah, he was awesome. As we've come to expect with him in the postseason, like, I don't even know how many big-time performances he's had already, but, like, the guy's just 25 years old, and he's already, like, one of the best big game pitchers of all time. Like, the legacy he's creating for himself is just incredible. He had it working all night tonight. The fastball was just overpowering, struck out 10 in 6 innings. I mean, only gave up the 1 run, which was fine. Like, not a big deal at all. Got through 6 innings, which was big because, they didn't have to use a lot of the bullpen arms. And we got 3 games in 3 days here. So being able to preserve a lot of those guys was big. But yeah, I don't know. We're running out of stuff to say about Walker Buehler because every time he takes the mound, like, he just impresses us. Like, he's just awesome.
It's amazing to think where we're at because it wasn't very long ago that I think there was genuine concern about Walker Buehler. He had blisters at about the worst time in the season, and it wasn't only the blisters. His first 2 postseason starts this year were not great. Lots of walks. Even the last one, yes, the box score looks good, but sort of watching the game was a lot more stressful than you would have thought, given the bases loaded, nobody's out that he gets out of. But, basically from that moment forward, it feels like something clicked for Buehler. As I indicated, I mean, this is the first time he's getting to throw consistently, kind of his 3rd or 4th start on just about normal rest. And, I mean, his fastball was working, and I knew the moment it was to Brandon Lau in the first inning, and he threw a breaking ball that just absolutely died on the outside corner. And it was like, if Walker Buehler's throwing 97 and that happens, I mean, I think it's going to be a wrap. And that was basically just about what happened for the Dodgers. So Walker Buehler was outstanding tonight. And there's not much more you could say. As you said, 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts, only 93 pitches. I mean, we'll talk about a little bit later what this means for the Dodgers down the road. He's on full rest for Game 7. It'll be interesting to see kind of how things play out there. But let's do a recap of just how we got there because things got started. We always say we like to start things early. Well, Justin Turner comes up with 2 outs. This is the theme you'll hear tonight. He comes up with 2 outs in the first inning and absolutely lasers a home run. There was a lot of talk, can he catch up to the fastball? The answer almost all of the season has been no. He caught up to that one, rifles it into left field. And the Dodgers go up 1-0. And then Buehler, I thought, was just fantastic, as I said from the start. As quick of a half inning as you'll ever see. 11 pitches, 2 strikeouts, and all of a sudden the Dodgers are right back up in the second inning. And, Buehler just kept putting up 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3. The Dodgers come back up in the second. They get a 2-out hit by pitch for Seager. Turner doubles. I was pissed because if I have to watch the Dodgers not score from first base on a double in the freaking World Series, it's like we need runs. They don't score. Maybe the right decision. Definitely the right decision in hindsight. Muncy comes up, 2-run single, and all of a sudden it's 3-0. First base runner gets on in the bottom of the third. That's Kiermaier. Justin Turner, unbelievable play at third base. He's really good. If I didn't know Justin Turner, I would have called that lucky because it felt like he closed his eyes and threw his glove out there a little bit. But Turner's kind of earned the right to say that was a skillful play by him. So the Dodgers get out of a jam there. And then in the fourth, we're right back at it. Bellinger leadoff single. Taylor strikes out. Jock with the longest single you'll ever see down the line. Austin Barnes, perfect bunt. John Smoltz has been calling for bunting for about 3 weeks, it feels like. He gets it. Austin Barnes comes up first and third with 1 out, and everybody in the world knew a bunt was coming. It was a guy you don't trust with the bat. You don't want him to hit into a double play. Perfect bunt. Bellinger scores. And then Betts comes up, 2-out single. Corey Seager grounds out, but 4 of the 5 runs up until this point with 2 outs. But then again, Walker Buehler comes out in the fourth, 1-2-3 inning. And I made a note to myself, the fact that Buehler, the Dodgers score in 3 of the first 4 innings, and he every single time comes back with an immediate shutdown inning. No sign of life, forcing Charlie Morton to go right back out there quickly, too, which I imagine has to just suck the hope out of the Rays. The fifth, the Dodgers are right back up. Muncy walks, Morton's done, and that was his night. So 4.1 innings for Morton, 5 earned runs. You hate to see it. You know, a guy as nice as Morton, a guy who just, oh no, wait, he was an Astro, so actually you don't hate to see it. You actually love to see it. Charlie Morton didn't look good, and this is their game 7 starter if we get there, so you have to feel pretty good about that, right, Daniel?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll start with Justin Turner. He hasn't been, quite his usual self this postseason, but he did it all tonight. He hits the home run in the first inning to get him going, and then he gets the double. He makes the defensive play. So it was good to see Justin Turner have a bit of a breakout game. Yeah. He's been kind of hit or miss this postseason. Obviously, we know how important he is to this team, but I mean, he did it all tonight. That was great to see. Got the offense going early. During that first inning, I was getting ready to tweet out like something like, I guess the Dodgers offense used up all their first inning runs in that game 3 against the Braves. But I mean, hey, he got him on the board there. It was good to see. And that was pretty much enough for Walker Buehler tonight, who was in attack mode all night. We've talked about how this Braves team is they're better against left-handed pitching. Obviously, Buehler's a righty, and we've also talked about how they struggle with fastballs and velocity. So either the Dodgers watch this show or they have a pretty good scouting report of their own, because Buehler was just pretty much exclusively the fastball the first few innings, mixed in a few breaking balls. But, I mean, it was pretty clear that they weren't catching up to his heat. Yeah. And he took advantage of it. So it was awesome to see. And like you said, getting to Morton was huge because he's been pretty good this postseason. He's been, other than, Buehler, he's been maybe the best pitcher, and Julio, of course. But, they got to him, which was good to see, and that was more than enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to point out my prediction for this game was 5-1. I was very, very close to that. I mean, that's 2 runs off, that seems significant, but if you've heard the rest of my predictions for the last couple of weeks, that's about as good as it gets for me. So 5-1. They get to Morton. And then the bottom of the fifth is where Buehler runs into a little trouble. He gives up the first hit, which was a 1-out double to Manuel Margot. Then he gets a strikeout. He gets 0-2 on Willy Adames, and the announcers kind of hinted at it. He tried to get a little bit too cute. This is a guy who couldn't hit his fastball. And I think he was trying to throw a breaking ball to see if he could get him to chase it. He just hung it, and Adames put it down the line for an RBI double. Buehler gets a ground out to end it. And then the Dodgers do what the Rays had been trying to do, which is the Rays score a run. The Dodgers come right back up. Austin Barnes, 2 outs, absolute laser show. I mean, I joked a couple nights ago when he flew out to the warning track. It was like, well, that's kind of all you get from Barnes. He's not going to, I mean, this ball was freaking crushed. Another run with 2 outs. So 5 of the 6 runs the Dodgers scored tonight is with 2 outs. And that was all the Dodgers needed. Mookie Betts gets another single, gets to put a couple of those on the board, steals a base. Again, his 4th of the series. Corey Seager walks, and then Justin Turner almost extends it. Absolutely laces the ball into center field. Can't get out, but Buehler comes out, closes down the 6th inning, striking out Lau and Arozarena, the 2 best hitters on the team. Like I said, 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts. And from there, it was the bullpen. I tweeted, and I'd love to get your thoughts. I said, what do the Dodgers do here? You're up by 5. You don't really want to mess around, but you also know you've got 2 more games the next 2 days, and your worst starting pitcher going tomorrow in Urias, a guy you're hoping to get length out of, but it's not Buehler or Kershaw where you kind of just pencil him into at least 4 or 5. So I was curious to see, do they go their best arms? The answer was yes. Treinen for the 7th, no problems. 1, 2, 3. Gratterall for the 8th, 7 pitches, touches 102 miles an hour. 1, 2, 3. And then Jansen comes in for the 9th. And we'll get to that in a moment, but ultimately gets the job done. The Dodgers win. I'm curious what you thought of the decision to use the guys that you and I think both agree are the best 3 arms. Maybe Pedro Baez is kind of floating in that conversation somewhere, but clearly these are the 3 guys the Dodgers trust the most. I don't know if Treinen was in first because it was the 4, 5, 6 hitters, or if it was because that's the order they want, but ultimately, I mean, those guys looked absolutely nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, before I get to the bullpen, I'm just going to give you a little praise here because you've been leading the Austin Barnes hype train this whole postseason, and he did it tonight. I mean, first the bunt and then the homer, which off the bat, I was like, wait a minute, does that have a chance? And then I was like, oh, no, Barnes hit it. It doesn't. And then, they panned to the outfield, and it just kept carrying. I was like, oh, my God, no way. So I'll give you a little praise there. First, you were close on the prediction that now your Barnes hype's finally coming.
Hopefully, I didn't use it all up in one night. But yes, to be fair, I have been saying let Austin Barnes catch and Will Smith DH. I wouldn't have told you that Austin Barnes was going to have 2 RBIs and a home run, but you know what? We'll take it.
Hey, came through tonight. Huge night for Austin Barnes. But now to the bullpen. Yeah, kind of like you said, that was the kind of conundrum they were going through, right? Like it's a 6-1 game, so not super close. But I mean, it's also like a couple hits away from being close. So, and also a lot of these guys like Kenley and Treinen and those guys hadn't pitched since Game 6 of the NLCS. So that now we're at the point where it's like, all right, they could probably use some work. Like I know we're playing 3 straight days here, but I think it was good to get those guys some work. We got Julio thrown tomorrow and then Kershaw the next day. So there's no true bullpen games like we saw in Game 2 and we could potentially see in Game 6. So I think you could use your guys tonight. If it's close tomorrow, you could pitch them again tomorrow, and then maybe they're not available for Game 5. But I mean, if that's your worry, like if you're worried about going up 3-1 and not having a couple of your best relievers with Kershaw going, that's not the worst thing in the world. They still got plenty of other guys who we have trust in that they didn't use. Like they didn't use Baez, they didn't use Victor Gonzalez. So they still have those guys ready. None of the Dodgers relievers tonight threw a lot of pitches. I think Treinen threw like 12 or 13. Yeah. Gratterall threw like 7 and Kenley threw like 14 or something. So it was a good work night. They all look good. Kenley gave up a home run, which is fine. It's a 6-1 game. You don't want to be walking guys, so I don't mind him attacking a Rosarena there. Yeah. But now we probably found out maybe stick with the off-speed stuff against that guy. We know he crushes fastballs. The Dodgers have done an absolutely great job of neutralizing him this series until that meaningless home run, which – I mean, who cares? It's fine. Let him have that. We'll take a 6-2 win instead of 6-1. Yeah.
And I mean, I'll also throw out, yes, it's 3 games in 3 days, but you're in the World Series. And when Jansen throws 15 pitches and Gratterall throws 7 and Treinen throws 14, I mean, we saw Treinen, I think he pitched like 2 innings the second day in a row. He might have even pitched 3 days in a row in the last series. So I definitely would not rule, like, especially the light workload they had tonight, I would not rule any of those guys out of pitching the next 3 games if the Dodgers felt like they need them. But you're just basically hoping at this point that between Urias or Kershaw, that one of those guys can give you length. And if you get into another situation where it's a little bit of a blowout, you can save yourselves there. And I appreciate the question, a couple people asking about the Rays rotation. We'll get to that in 1 second. I want to ask one last question. Prior to the Arozarena home run, Kenley Jansen, that was as good as I've seen Jansen look, period. I mean, his cutter was 93 and 95. Absolutely nasty. And then, it was a 4-seam fastball. He's throwing 95. Yeah. So the announcers kept appropriating that as a cutter when it wasn't a cutter, which is what made it so nasty, because it was almost like, I think it was against Lau maybe, he threw 3 pitches where it almost looked like he threw a cutter and then a 2-seamer and a 4-seamer. I don't know if he has a 2-seamer, but he basically threw a cutter that moved left, he threw a 4-seamer that went up, and then he threw another pitch that seemed to go right. So absolute nastiness from Jansen. Of course, he gives up the home run, which kind of ruins the, oh my gosh, unbelievable. But what I saw from Jansen tonight, unbelievably encouraging to me as a guy that you can trust. All three of these guys, you kind of needed, you wanted to see a good performance from all of them. And I mean, I can't imagine feeling better about the Dodgers bullpen. Now, these are famous last words, so I'm going to try not to get myself into trouble, but I can't imagine feeling better about the bullpen than I do after tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also helps that, like, as we've been talking about, this Rays lineup they're not exactly world beaters here. Like, we're not facing Tatis and Machado and Hosmer anymore. We're not facing Acuna, Freeman, Ozuna. Like, this Rays lineup, they got a few guys, but this isn't exactly the best lineup in baseball, which obviously helps out a pitching staff. So, yeah, like you said, this is the most confident we've probably felt in the Dodgers bullpen all season.
Yeah.
It's been a few games in a row now where pretty much everyone, other than the young guys Gonsolin and May, have looked pretty good.
Yeah.
And everyone's pretty fresh too. Like, no one's being super overworked. Like you said, this is the last series, so we could now kind of start getting to the point where we just empty the tank. If you have to pitch Trinan and Kenley on three straight games, that's fine, because hey, if we're closing it out, they could take off till March. So yeah, I mean, we're feeling good about the Dodgers bullpen. It also feels good that we got Julio and Kershaw the next two games as well.
Yeah. I mean, and as I said at the beginning, this felt like a must-win for the Dodgers in the sense that with Walker Buehler on the mound, it would have hurt to fall behind 2-1 because that would have put you in a position where potentially Walker Buehler doesn't get another chance to start. But the flip side of that is they win tonight, and now all of a sudden you say the Dodgers have a massive advantage tomorrow with Urias on the mound. Now, we've seen Urias in the bullpen, so I kind of want to temper expectations a little bit because starting a game, he has struggled in the first inning, and this is a different animal. But I think Urias is, even going back to when he started at the end of the year, he's looked fantastic. So the Dodgers have a massive advantage with a real starter tomorrow and a rested, well-stocked bullpen, followed by Kershaw, who has already faced off with his counterpart in Game 1, whom he outpitched. So for me, you're looking at the Dodgers and saying, we only need to win 2 more games. We definitely have a pitching advantage tomorrow. We definitely have a pitching advantage the game after that. And even if you look ahead to Game 7, we definitely have a pitching advantage in that game. So it's definitely interesting seeing. Now, how the Rays shake out their rotation is a question we've gotten a couple. So before we get to headlines, let's do a couple questions. If you've got any for us, throw them in the chat. But I've got 2 so far. This one was from Scott Newhouse, and Isaac asked the same thing as well. What are the Rays doing for pitching the next 2 games, and when would Snell pitch again? So I know tomorrow they've got a bullpen game. Ryan Yarbrough, who was a reliever in Game 1, is expected to sort of take up the bulk of the innings, although I don't think they've officially named a starter. What do you imagine they'll do in Game 5?
Well, Game 5, it's back to Glass now, right? He matched up with Kershaw in Game 1, so he'll be on regular rest. Obviously, the Dodgers hit him pretty well in Game 1, so, I mean, they're feeling pretty confident seeing him again in Game 5. But like you said, tomorrow's a bullpen game for the Rays, so hopefully they got to use some of their high-leverage guys, even if they're losing, because you got to get through 9 innings there. Ryan Yarbrough might be able to give them a few innings, maybe, but I don't think he's super built up. The Dodgers also got some hits off him in Game 1, so that's not like some stud starter or anything. So it's more of definitely a bullpen game for the Rays tomorrow, and then back to Glasnow in Game 5, like I said. Yeah.
So Yarbrough went 2/3 of an inning, gave up 2 hits in Game 1, and then was relieved by Fleming, who threw 2 2/3. So I would imagine is kind of another guy that they trust to get some outs. But Fleming absolutely got rocked. 2 2/3, 5 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk. So he was kind of a mess. Another question that we've gotten asked actually a couple times, both by External Void and then by Pilo GLZ. I don't know what that stands for, but who is your MVP until now? And I can answer this one first, and mine's a little bit of an incomplete. But my prediction at the beginning of the season was at the beginning of the series was Clayton Kershaw. He did everything he could in Game 1. We know we're going to get at least one more Clayton Kershaw game. So for me, that doesn't change. I think you could see, I saw the Chevy graphic today with the Mookie for MVP, and I was like, okay, hold on, pump the brakes, my guy Kershaw. But I just can't imagine if the Dodgers were to win this series in 5 games or 6, and Clayton Kershaw throws another game on par with the one he threw. I just think the narrative, I don't see how, it would just be a disservice and an injustice if anyone other than Clayton Kershaw won it, in my opinion. So I'll stick with Clayton Kershaw. Do you want to make the argument for anybody else?
I mean, I still think it's too early
It's
to
a
really
huge,
say.
yeah, the Kershaw especially is a big if because he's got another
Yeah,
whole start. Like we've
no,
seen
but look,
50%.
if the Dodgers win tomorrow and then they got Kershaw on the mound in game 5 in a closeout game, if he goes and does what he did in game 1 and they close him out in 5, I think Clayton Kershaw is an easy choice. I mean, obviously, if he doesn't pitch as well, that pretty much takes him out of the running there. But I mean, he's kind of controlling his own destiny at this point. Go out and do what you did in game 1, and it's yours.
Yeah.
As far as the offense goes, there's a few guys who are in the running right now. Obviously, like you said, Mookie, Justin Turner is now all of a sudden having a big series after a big night
Austin
tonight.
Barnes, come on. Well, you're not even haven't gotten to my guy yet, Daniel.
Austin Barnes would need to have another night like he did tonight.
Like 4 more nights like tonight, I think.
Max Muncy's probably in the mix. He had the big 2-run single tonight. He's walking all postseason. So, I mean, I guess it's a good thing when you got too many options because guys are doing so well. But I mean, I guess it'll boil down to what happens the next couple nights. But I would agree, right? As of now, it's Kershaw's to lose if he goes out there in game 5 and does what he does in game 1.
Yeah, Peyton Spears says give it to Barnes too, so shout out from him. And my nephew Micah also agrees that Austin Barnes should be the MVP. He's a big Austin Barnes guy, which was a running joke for basically the entire season. Austin Barnes threw him a ball in spring training this year, and so he became this huge Austin Barnes fan, and it became a running joke in the family. It's like, nice, dude. Now you got to get your kid an Austin Barnes jersey. But now he's the legend. Now he's I told him I'm just driving the bandwagon until he's old enough to drive, and then it's all his. But yeah, I mean, and I don't know. I couldn't tell if you mentioned this, but I mean, obviously Buehler tonight, he's in the conversation if he were to get another start.
Yeah.
So
if it goes to game 7 and he does it again, absolutely. But I mean, at this point, if the Dodgers close out in 5, we would only see him once, whereas we would see Kershaw twice. Yeah. So the edge would probably go to Kershaw there.
Yeah. Obadiah Knight says sabermetrics are the MVP, which is it's hard to say against the Rays because they might even be more like leveraged on sabermetrics than us. But absolutely. Let me, I mean, I'll throw this question out. Is there any scenario where Walker Buehler pitches in game 6 in your mind? Obviously, the Dodgers are up 2-1. So the only one I could possibly imagine is if the Dodgers were to lose game 4 and game 5, it would be on 1 day short of rest. So he'd be 1 day short. Is that even, I mean, obviously we're not hoping for or predicting the Dodgers to lose the next 2, but is that even in the realm of possibilities? Or even at that point, do you say, well, we need to win game 6 and game 7, so we take our chances with 6 and rest Buehler for 7?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly a possibility just because at that point you would know for a fact, like this is his last outing of the season. Like you could just completely empty the tank at that point. It's only 1 day shorter, which with his blister, that would be the only hesitation because every day, you know, getting that right is a good thing. But I mean, like you said, if they lose the next 2 and we're looking at an elimination game in game 6, I wouldn't exactly be feeling super comfortable with another bullpen game led by Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May, who weren't exactly great the other night. So I think the only way you do it is if you lose the next 2, which obviously we're hoping doesn't happen.
Yeah, not predicting.
With Julio and Kershaw going, a lot would have to go wrong to lose those 2 games. But I mean, it's certainly possible. And if you do, I think you definitely consider it. Then you could probably game 7 then becomes an all hands on deck type of game where maybe Julio starts on short rest or you know, he pitches out of the bullpen at least. Maybe you get Kershaw on 2 days of rest out of the bullpen. We're at the point where, like I said, you empty the tank at this point. There's only a few games left here and then the season's over. So I don't think you could rule out anything right now, but let's just hope it doesn't get to the point where we're facing an elimination game in game 6.
Well, I mean, and it is kind of like that's the scenario, right? Is the Dodgers are able to sort of set things up and you're doing the math and you basically say, okay, we're 3 games in. There's potentially 4 games left. The Dodgers only need to win 2. And you're just doing the math and you're saying, okay, we know we have a Kershaw start. We know we have a Buehler start and we know we have a massive advantage with Urias. And not to mention, like, I mean, play all those things out. It's, I mean, aside from Snell, who would pitch in game 6, you don't really, Glasnow doesn't really scare you. He's really good, but they got to him. Morton, the same thing. Is he really good? Yes, but the Dodgers got to him. And even Snell, I mean, by the time he was leaving, the Dodgers did tag him for 2 runs. So I wouldn't necessarily be terrified of facing any of those guys again. Whereas if you're the Rays, I mean, you're absolutely horrified of Walker Buehler again and you're probably not feeling great again about Kershaw either. So,
and at that, Julio's given up what, 1 earned run this postseason,
Yeah.
so you're not exactly feeling good about facing him either.
Yeah. Well, let's get to some headlines. So if you're just joining us, the rules for this are really, really simple. All you've got to do is you've got to be subscribed to the YouTube channel, be able to send us a screenshot proving it, and then you've got to follow us on either Facebook or on Twitter, and that's just so you can send us some contact information. And we'll be giving out a Dodger hat that's got the World Series emblem on the side of it. So it's a sweet hat. We'll get that sent to you. And so we've got, but send us your headline. So if you were writing a post-game recap for today, send us your best headline. I gave you my preview. I've got 3. Normally I don't think far enough ahead, but I wrote down 3 of these. My first one was the title for the Periscope on Twitter, which was Walker Buehler's Day On. So I kind of felt good about that. I was like, I need to go the Ferris Bueller's Day Off route. And I was like, Bueller's here, Bueller's present. No, Walker Buehler's Day On. So that's what I got 1. I'll save the other 2. We'll see what happens. Jared Flores says, Morton proves that barrels aren't the only thing that's overrated. I like that one. Which, by the way, somebody was tweeting about. Like, the Fox guys genuinely think the Dodgers believe barrels are overrated when it is an entirely inside joke, and they completely missed it.
It's been an inside joke for like 3 years now, too. It's not like some new thing.
Yeah, and they completely missed it. Though you could see it when the Dodgers are saying barrels were overrated. They were like smiling, but Smoltz like, oh, they hate barrels. Like, look how cool this is. Okay. Dodgers win in a barn burner. I would have gone Barnes burner, but Dodgers win in a Barnes burner. Rays post-mortem. So like a post-mortem kind of thing. I like that. Walker the Fabulous. Oh, Fabu with Bueller kind of mixed in there. I've got to read these to Daniel. He's not looking at them, so excuse me for explaining these in a stupid way. Let's see. Dodgers champions. Might be a little early for that one, Pac-Man. We appreciate it.
Let's hold off on that one.
Josiah says,
after Game 5.
Buehler cruises past Rays, backed by Turner and the offense. Mookie defeats hunger by himself. Yes, and by the way, if you've won a hat, it's in the mail, I promise. The Postal Service is running a little bit slower than normal nowadays, so it's coming. Plus, it's not like a piece of paper in the mail, so it'll take a few days. So, Coop Life, it's on the way. Buehler the Bulldozer. Butane Grills Rays. Oh, I like that one. Lost it 777. Buehler the Bulldozer. That was Angie Leonard. Nice. We've got Yazzie saying beat LA in here, so who knows if that's a Giants fan or a Rays fan. But Dodgers shell former cheating Astro. That's from Obeid Knight. Yay Dodgers from Best Progi. I like that's very simple. Just yay Dodgers. Okay.
Yay Dodgers.
You ready for Here's my other 2, Daniel. You ready for these?
All right.
Charlie Morton fears the blue. It's kind of like a Horton Hears the Who kind of reference thing. And then I've got 2-out blowout. Dodgers beat Rays. Those are the other 2 that I came up with. So,
okay, not bad.
Let's see. Turner turns tables on Rays. Take Game 3. Some of these, it's like I can't tell. Bueller's 10 Ks. Smoke Rays. Let's see. So I think that's what we got so far. Any of those jump out to you? They say Bueller's Day On has to be the best, but I'm not giving myself a hat. But I appreciate the compliments on here.
No, we'll give it to someone else. There were 2 that I liked, so I'll let you choose between the 2. I liked the Butane Grill one.
Yeah.
And I liked, there was one with Morton in it. It was one of the first ones you read, I think.
Let's see if I can scroll up and find this. Morton proves that barrels aren't the only thing that's overrated.
Yes, there you go. Those are the 2 for me. So I'll let you decide between
I'm gonna
unless you like another one better.
No, I mean I thought Butane. What you said, Butane Grill. I thought Buehler the Bulldozer. Some of the play on words ones were nice. Here, I'll throw a couple. Mookie of the Year. Dodgers are a ray of sunshine. Somebody on Twitter, I think, sent us one like Dodgers sting the Rays or something like that. But that was, or maybe that was sent way earlier in the chat. Cheater Morton takes the L. I like that one. Morton got assaulted. I'm not sure what the salt emphasis there was, but we appreciate that. I'll go with Butane grills the Astros. I like that, or grills the Rays. So lost it 777. Congratulations, Butane grills Rays. Send us a message either on Facebook or on Twitter with your headline in it, and obviously just prove that you're following us on YouTube. We appreciate it. Oh, Morton salt. Got it. Yes. Not like a super sophisticated food guy over here. That was the salt assaulted. Somebody else helped you out there. A little slow on the uptake. A little slow on the uptake. Just celebrating, you know. As a friend of mine, Peyton, who I think is watching, so shout out to Peyton. He tweeted beforehand, basically like, I get so nervous I can't eat. I'm in the same boat. I haven't had dinner yet. Like, I just like, there's no food going into my stomach for a 5 o'clock game.
I was like that for the Braves series. I've been kind of surprisingly like not as nervous this
gosh.
series.
Fortunate.
Maybe it's because the 2 games the Dodgers won, they like scored like a few early runs to give them a lead, and we had Kershaw and Buehler going, so I felt a little comfortable, at least comfortable enough to eat. But there were some games during that Brave series where I definitely was not eating.
Yeah. The best Progie's got a good comment. He said Buehler had a no-hitter until his wife touched the Dodger monkey, and then all of a sudden everything fell apart. So best Progie, let's just make sure the monkey gets a reset, calibrated in the right spot ahead of tomorrow's game, okay? Michael Nelson agrees. Yeah, I just nibble on my dinner during the game. It takes 3 hours to eat the whole thing. So there you go. I can appreciate that. Well, any other questions you guys got, throw them in the chat. We'll answer those as we close out tonight's show. But I mean, I'm just thinking back on some of the headlines. I think Justin Turner getting himself going was big. 2 extra base hits in his first 2 at-bats. I can't get over the fact that the Dodgers are hitting with 2 strikes and they're hitting with 2 outs. I mean, every time the Dodgers have lost in the postseason, it feels like that is the killer. Like, it feels like the Dodgers will put guys on second and third. That's why I lose my mind when Seager didn't score from first on the Turner double, because I'm like, I have no confidence the guy coming up next is actually going to get a big hit, because we never see it. And yet 5 runs with 2 outs tonight is absolutely the difference. Not that the Rays, I mean, they basically never put anybody in scoring position except for the 2 doubles that scored them the run early on. So that's a big storyline. I think Turner getting going, obviously Buehler, the 2 out hitting, and then the bullpen. I mean, to see Treinen, Gratterall, and Jansen look as good as they did, those are the 4 things I kind of take away from this game. Anything that you would add to that?
Yeah, no, you hit it right on the head there. And that Muncy hit in particular right after the Turner double that you mentioned, that was a huge one, because it was only, 1-0 at that time. Yep. So if you strand a couple runners there, maybe Morton's able to settle in. Obviously, Buehler was pitching great, but I mean, 1-0, you're hardly comfortable in a 1-0 game. So it was good for Muncy to get that hit, and that kind of opened the floodgates a little bit, and they were able to get to Morton. Obviously, the Barnes bunt was just awesome. Like, the whole world knew he was bunting, and he still just put it in the perfect spot to bring home the run. So that was cool to see, and it was even cooler to see him come up and homer in his next at bat, which it was the complete opposite of the bunt. Everyone knew he was bunting. No one expected him to homer there. So that was awesome. And then, like you said, the bullpen took care of the rest. So it was just a great overall night, team win. Everyone made their contributions, and hopefully they could ride that momentum right into tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the only downside to the Austin Barnes bunt was how happy it made John Smoltz and how it basically validated. Because for 2 weeks we've heard him say, if you just bunt, there's nothing they can do. Like, there's nothing they could do. And then sure enough, perfect bunt, like no chance to do anything. So, well, we got one other question here from Obaid Knight, said, who goes off on offense tomorrow? Everyone, they wanted both of us to make a guess. So if you had to pick an offensive MVP tomorrow, bullpen game, so not really much of a sense, lefty or righty. I think Yarborough's a lefty. Is that right?
Yeah, he's a lefty.
So they might see a little bit more of a lefty than normal. But who do you got as the offensive star tomorrow?
I'm going to go Will Smith tomorrow. He hit the ball hard a few times tonight. He's been hitting the ball hard all series, all playoffs, really. Yeah. And has, like you said on many occasions, that he's been the most unlucky player in baseball this postseason. So I think he has one of those games tomorrow where, a couple hits fall in. Maybe he goes deep. So yeah, I'm going Will Smith tomorrow. Okay,
well, the big platypus on YouTube agrees with you. That was his prediction a few moments ago. Daniel can't see the chat, so he's not copying you. I can assure you of that. But, I mean, I think it seems cliche to say Mookie Betts, but this is a guy you've kind of felt is missing it. Even in the first couple of bats today, it was just sort of like, just left you wanting. We know for whatever reason he's kind of struggled to see the ball the way, this season they've kind of hinted at a little bit. He did get the home run early on, so that was nice. But I'm going to go with Mookie. I think Mookie has a big game. I think he saw a couple seeing eye grounders that probably, one of those, like, you're more fortunate than unfortunate on. But I hope that's kind of what gets him going. I think the steals obviously play a factor in that. And so I got that. Dan Inspiration says Seager. 2 home runs for Seager tomorrow, so you'll get no complaints. Seager's the one guy on the roster that he could go like 0 for 2 nights in a row like he has, and I'm not really worried. I just don't think he cares like at all. Like it doesn't feel like he gets overly confident or underconfident.
Very calm, cool, and collected for sure.
Yeah, Michael Nelson agrees. He's got Seager with a big night tomorrow night. Let's see. Mookie Betts, Rob Marvin, and Ernesto Carram both say Mookie is tomorrow. Will Smith, offensive MVP. Best Progi agrees with you there. Michael Nelson, Seager's due for a big game. Bellinger. I mean, some of these people are... Someone wants me to tell you that you look cute, by the way, Daniel. It's a different person than last time, but I'll just throw that out there for you. So
I have to imagine that's probably one of my friends.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Kapil says Will Smith as well. Hermes Gonzalez says Mookie owns the Rays. He killed them with Boston. Patty Madison says Seager. So there you go. But let's end it with predictions. I predicted a sweep at the beginning of the series. You went 6 games and then moved it up to 5 games. I would imagine nothing changed tonight. I would imagine that you feel good about a 5-game series after tonight.
Yeah, it's hard not to feel good with Julio and Kershaw going the next 2 days, especially considering the Rays got a bullpen game and then back to Glass now, who we're able to get to. So, but as far as tomorrow goes, my prediction, I honestly think it's going to be kind of similar to tonight. I don't expect the Rays to score a whole lot. I think the Dodgers will get some early runs and then kind of coast. So what was it, 6-2 tonight?
Yeah.
So I'll go close to that. I'm going to say 7-3 tomorrow. Dodgers take it 1 win away after that.
I would pound the under tomorrow. I don't know why. I feel like we've got a 3-2 game on our hands, a game that I'm going to watch every second of because it's going to be too close. I have the Dodgers winning, but I think it's a close one. I think, the Rays have a really good bullpen. So a bullpen game is not necessarily doom and gloom for a team like them. They could throw plenty of different arms, although I will say the Dodgers haven't really had trouble with any of the arms that have come out. Even if they haven't scored on them, it feels like they're getting traffic. But I'm going to say 3-2 Dodgers tomorrow. And then, as Justin goes, that would set them up to win on a day in which Kershaw pitches, which would be poetic justice if I've ever heard it.
I can't imagine it ending any other way, right? Like after all we've been through over the past 10 years, 12 years, whatever it's been, that's just the perfect storybook ending to this season. Kershaw, puts in a great performance and gets his ring. So the first steps tomorrow, get a win tomorrow, and then we're in a position to do that on Sunday. Yeah,
because the best and worst way for this to end is like in a Game 7 where Kershaw pitches 6 innings in relief on like a day and a half of rest. But like I would not be alive to do a post-game show at the end of that. So let's hope not. Yazzie says Tampa in 5. I like that prediction. I'm not really sure how
impossible.
How your math works there, Yazzie, but I hate to break that one to you. So Hermes says 7-3 Dodgers tomorrow. We got lots of people in the chat agreeing with you. Jonathan and Best Progi both say 5 games. They're predicting. Urias MVP tomorrow says Dice Darg 19. So there we go. But yeah. So that's what we got. Dodgers, we're both predicting a win tomorrow. We like our chances. Obviously with Urias on the mound in a bullpen game. So that will set them up tomorrow. First pitch tomorrow, 5:08, kind of the same time slot. So that's nice. Who knows if the roof will be open or closed? Didn't seem to really make a difference. I mean, a couple balls flew out of the yard, but I'm not sure Turner's or Barnes are definitely not a Rosarena's. I don't think any open or closed would have mattered on any of those 3. So we'll see what happens. But we both like the Dodgers tomorrow. Julio Urias starting, and then Clayton Kershaw in Game 5 with the chance to close it out if the Dodgers can win. So we appreciate you joining us as always, whether it's on YouTube or Periscope or on Facebook. As always, Dodger Blue 1958 on YouTube. We'll have tons of post-game coverage as well as pre-game coverage for tomorrow. We'll have a recap up on DodgerBlue.com, and then follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well, Dodger Blue 1958. So that's Daniel. I'm Jeff. We appreciate you joining us, and we will see you tomorrow.